Wow, your cars look so shiny.
Thanks. I've been taking them to Green Gorilla Car Wash. Thanks to their new ceramic application, my cars have never had such a glossy shine.
Sounds expensive.
You haven't heard about their sale? Right now, their Jungle membership with ceramic coating is half off for every vehicle. Instead of $30 per month, I'm only paying $14.99 from now until September 2022.
That's almost a whole year.
I know. My half-price membership is good at both Green Gorilla locations in the Valley.
I better head there now.
Coming up on the Monday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, we'll have the latest for you on the Biden administration's efforts to distract the American people from the massive failures at the border, on the economy, on crime. You name it, the spin machines are going to be going fast and furious. We'll separate fact from fiction, bring you up with all the latest stories, everything you need to know coming up on the Clay and Buck Show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM at 610 AM.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
And we welcome you to the show on a beautiful Saturday morning. Mark, it's one of those days where it's not what am I going to get done today, it's what may I not get done. Because there's a long list, and I just hope I can get it all done.
We've had some cold, wet weather, and it kind of slows things down where you can only do so much in between the storms. But, it's been great for the valley because it's like everything's green, and we've added to our snowpack, and nobody's had to irrigate, so nobody's had to turn sprinklers on. Farmers haven't had to irrigate. This is really great for our community, water-wise. Yeah, we're accumulating instead of depleting.
And watching the forecast, there's a chance. I mean, we keep saying there's these chances of storms, and they don't bring a whole lot, but they're bringing a little.
So
and
again,
we're taking it.
Storm tomorrow.
Yeah,
got another storm again next week. So this is a great day to get outside and do some of those things that you haven't been able to do because it has been a little bit wet. So I'm planning on getting some carrots planted, some beets planted, hopefully getting my potatoes planted as well too. So I've got those ready to go. Like to have those planted by the latter part of April, and just weather hasn't allowed that to happen so far, but we're going to try and get some of that done this weekend as well too. So we'll see what happens. But I was out spraying weeds this week. Weeds are kind of out of control, so seeing a lot of samples of weeds.
I had neglected my asparagus patch last October. We had that storm that came in and just laid all those trees down. And I never really cleared out our asparagus patch. And it just left a lot of those just deadfalls up and around where we had planted a lot of asparagus. And I thought, I've got to get that cleared up. And so I started going through that. And it took me a couple hours one night to get it all cleaned out. And asparagus spears were already
popping
coming
up all
up.
Over.
And I thought, oh, man, some of those deadfalls had kind of damaged it up. And so there's a lot of still cleanup that I was having to do.
Right.
But got that done. And now I just need to give it a little kickstart with some fertilizer, and that'll help.
And we just got some new asparagus plants in, too. So we just got a big batch of asparagus. So we've got Jersey Night, which is a green variety, and we have Purple Passion, which is a purple variety. And they're both amazing. They're both really, really good. So we've got asparagus. Got some new strawberry plants in, too. So bare root strawberries, bare root asparagus still available. Getting low on onions. We're starting to run out of some varieties of onions. So it's end of April.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be running out of onions at this point, but I did get my onions planted. My peas are up, and I got to fix the fence because the deer are going to get in there and eat the peas because those new pea sprouts just taste so good. Deer won't be able to leave them alone, so I got to do a little fence fixing at my house as well too. So, but just got some really gorgeous trees and shrubs in. So we've got a great selection of trees and shrubs, and I've got more coming next week. So a lot of things, yeah. So demand is still higher than supply. And with the real high demand the last couple of years, a lot of shrubs and trees they're just not really available. I mean, they're available, but they're not readily available. So there's just not as many options out there as we've had in the past, because it's not like you can push a button and the factory starts up and it just starts kicking trees and shrubs out. It takes a couple years to build that supply back up. So between the two pandemic years that we had where demand was really high, they ended up selling through all the plants and then dipping into the next season as well too, and so it's made a little bit of a shortage on a lot of trees and shrubs. But I've got a great selection coming in next week. We've got a bunch of really nice stuff in right now, and the greenhouses are absolutely full. So we are full of flowers, we're full of vegetables, lots and lots of beautiful flowers, perennials. We kind of got the back yard of the store kind of cleaned up yesterday. We really worked at it because it's when all that stuff comes all at once, and we're still kind of clearing out the bare root stuff. Yeah, it's like we're trying to clear the bare root stuff out, and the roses all came. So we got 250 roses in this week as well too. So everything's just kind of starting to happen and show up at Anderson. So it's a great sign that spring is here, but it's always a difficult time for us because we're transitioning from what do we do with all the bare root stuff? There's some stuff that's left over. Okay, we're going to pot this all up. We got to put it over here. Then you move all the pots and set up the racks, and then all the perennials and the flowers and everything start coming in. So it's a constant process at Anderson's.
On top of that, you've had the compost tea party really kicking off this week, and I know everybody's coming in and grabbing jugs.
Yes, we're going through our 2.5 gallon containers very quickly, so it won't be long and those will be completely gone. But we've got a lot of ones still, and we kicked off the compost tea last week. Officially, it's this week, so compost tea party was yesterday. So it's time to come in and get your containers, and you get basically you buy a container, whether it's a 1 gallon or a 2.5 gallon. I've got some customers that have bought 4 2.5 gallons, and you get free refills all summer long, so you can come in and fill those up whenever you feel like you need to stop in at Anderson's. Just keep your container in the back of your car, and every time you get close, you can just stop by and grab some more. And I use the compost tea on my plants about every 10 days to 2 weeks, and so it's not like we're doing it constantly, but I do the compost tea on my tomatoes, do it on my peppers. We do our hanging baskets. We do planters, individual plants that it's really going to make a difference for. And then sometimes, if we've got a plant that's really struggling, it's a great way to perk up a shrub or a tree or something that's really having a hard time and get them going again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you can grab those jugs and then use them all season long.
Yeah. So you buy those containers, and then we will brew the compost tea 24/7 basically until about mid-August. It's usually about mid-August when we run out of product. Yeah, we run out of product. So at that point, it's like, everybody's plants are growing good already. Let's call it good.
And if you need a good example of what compost tea can do, just look at all the hanging baskets that you guys have up along Main Street and Center Street.
Yep.
I mean, you've said before, compost tea is what keeps those going.
Yep. And the weather hasn't been great for the for the pansies on Center Street because we've had snow and we've had frost and we've had everything. So the flowers haven't been really going. And so we started hitting it with the new compost tea, and they're just starting to take off all of a sudden like crazy. So they'll look good all the rest of this month. And then end of this month, 1st of June, we'll transplant those out. We'll put some different flowers in there. So some summertime flowers as well. Yeah, we'll start to make that transition. So, but phone lines are open. If you'd like to join our conversation today, you are welcome to call in 753-5868, 753-KVNU, or 1-800-369-5868. And a lot of things we can talk about. So, roses showed up, so we can talk about planting roses. Compost tea kicked in, so if you got questions about compost tea and how that works. Fire blight, it's time to prevent fire blight because we've got apples and pears that are going to be popping open with blossoms here in the next little bit, and where we're having some cold weather and some rain, that's something we definitely need to talk about, how to prevent fire blight from getting into your trees. Last year the trees bloomed and we didn't really have any bad weather during that bloom season, and so there was not as much fire blight last year, but this year it's looking like we're going to have some storms hitting in between. That's when fire blight really spread, so that's something we got to be aware of. And then all the peaches and apricots and nectarines and cherries are all in bloom right now. And so it's time to spray those for shot hole fungus and also for thrips on your nectarines. I got to remember to spray my nectarines. So definitely want to get those thrips under control in the nectarines. But shot hole fungus, peach leaf curl, Corinium blight, bacterial canker. We're seeing all those diseases spreading a lot the last couple of years in the valley. This is a time to spray right after those blossoms drop off to get those under control. And then weeds like crazy. We've got weeds popping up. So I sprayed a bunch of areas this last week to control weeds and also to prevent new seeds from coming up. So it's a really good time to do that as well too. And then I've had a lot of people in asking about our hanging basket video, but we also have a new video that's out that is our tomato magic formula. And so great video. It's about 7 minutes long. Shows you exactly walks you through the process, what we do to get our tomatoes to grow like crazy and to produce like crazy as well too. So we've got a new video at Anderson's that will walk you through that whole process of how to dig the holes, how to plant, what to fertilize them with, how to control diseases, and gives you kind of an idea of here's how you start. This is what you'll have when you finish up. So great information on our YouTube channel, but it's also on our website as well too. So great time to start thinking about planting tomatoes, even though we had frost this morning. So a little bit of frost through the valley. So saw some cars with frost on there.
But, with a wall of water or a small little dome.
Yes.
Which not only protects it from the frost, but you get those walls of water and it just
makes them grow like
off.
crazy. Yeah, makes them grow like crazy. So wall of water or aquanome will give you about 10 to 12 degrees of added protection. So we could have temperatures down into the low 20s and it wouldn't affect those. But a hot cap will only give you about 2 or 3 degrees. But it would have been perfect for last night. So if we were like 29, 30 degrees, little light frost, hot caps will take care of that without any trouble. And, light enough frost that we probably won't have any major fruit damage. It might have thinned some trees out a little bit, but nothing to be too concerned about.
Bad.
Yeah, nothing too cold. So it's all right. It's all good. Yeah.
Well, let's start out the phone calls. Let's go to Wallace, who's joining us on the line from North Logan. Wallace, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark. I got a question about strawberries.
Yes,
I've got an old patch of strawberries out here, and I need to rejuvenate the darn thing. My question is, shall I try and thin them out and use the runners to replant my own, or should I come in and get some new varieties?
That is a great question because you can use the runners and renew, and usually we recommend about every 4 to 5 years it's time to kind of clean the old berries out and just plant some new ones back in there, and that can be either the runners or you could come get some new berries from us. So bundles of 25 on the strawberries, they run about $9 for 25 plants, and so it all depends on how much time you have and how valuable your time is. If you want to dig all those runners up and save those and then replant those, it may take you more time and effort than it would to come in and get some new plants. But at that 4 to 5 year point, great time to either spray and get rid of those the strawberries and till that all up and then replant back in that same area. Use some soil conditioner. Soil building compost would be great. Some sort of compost that doesn't have steer manure in it would be excellent. Just to try and stay away from the steer for the strawberries. Add some fertilizer, add some organic matter, work that soil over, and then plant your runners or your new plants right back in that area, and away you go. Should work out really well.
One quick question, Mark. What's the right time to do this? What time should I plant this year?
Oh, I would do it right away. We're starting to run out of plants, and usually we like to do it just as the strawberries are starting to emerge, which is also right now. So anytime from the latter part of March through the first part of May would be an excellent time. So I'd get it done right away.
Thank you very much.
You are so welcome. Thanks for calling this morning. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
All right. We'll see you.
All right.
Okay, and that frees up all of our phone lines, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, or 1-800-369-5868.
Speaking of strawberries, I was out cleaning up just one of our flower gardens. We planted strawberries in this flower garden 10 years ago and tilled it up, thought they were gone, planted flowers, and those strawberries,
they came right back. Yeah.
And I came across a couple of them that were still there.
Yeah.
Man, I tried to kill you 10 years ago.
The strawberries are very resilient, so you till those up, and they are going to come back. You know, they're going to come back. We had a rhubarb when we built our home. We had a rhubarb plant that was in the area where we were going to put our driveway. And so we dug that rhubarb up and moved it to a different location. And we got part of the driveway done, but we didn't finish everything that first year. And then the next year, the rhubarb came back.
Right.
You know? And so it's like, all right, well, we hadn't put the concrete in yet. And so it's just like, oh, man. And so we dug it up again, moved it to another spot, you know, and as we were building our house, we were doing, you know, bits and pieces here and there. I mean, we had the driveway done, but this was like an extra parking area that that was in. And so we worked on the lawn, and we put the shrubs, and we put the trees in. I mean, we were working through the whole yard, and we didn't get that part of the driveway done because we kind of prioritized everything that we needed to do in the yard, and that just kind of kept getting pushed down the line a little bit. And the next year, it came back again. I was just like, oh my gosh, we've got this whole thing like 3 times already, and just kept coming back. Then we finally put the extra parking pad in, and it didn't come through. It didn't come through the concrete. Yeah, it didn't come through the concrete, but it just like kept coming back, and it's just like the strawberries. You know, they'll just keep going.
Very resilient.
Yeah, very resilient. So. A really great time to really start concentrating on getting plants planted, but we do have frost in the forecast for probably the next couple weeks, so we don't want to get too excited about planting tomatoes or, you know, marigolds or, you know, other things out there that are tender, that are sensitive to the frost. But you know, petunias and geraniums are definitely frost tolerant, and they can handle a light frost and won't bother those. So those could be planted, you know, right away. Here we're the 30th of April. You know, May's just one day away.
We're right here.
You know, and Mother's Day is only a week away. So it's just not that far from our potential last frost. But we do have frost potential for the next 3 weeks. So we got to be a little bit careful. Usually our last frost is around the 20th through the 23rd of May, and so that's only 3 weeks away. But I got a lot of people that are coming in. They're like, I'm going to plant my tomatoes. I'm going to plant my peppers. It's like, you know.
Yeah, bean plants and some of those other really tender plants.
Yeah.
May give them just another couple of weeks.
So beans and corn, it's going to take a week or 10 days for those to come up. And so usually right around Mother's Day, you can plant those, and it's going to take a week or so for those to emerge. And by the time they come up, we're normally past frost. And so, you know, this coming week, beans and corn, you just might be okay to get those planted. You know, it's like you can take a chance. If they come up and they get frozen, you know, what have you got to lose? You know, you just plant some more. You know, you're not going to be late or anything. I mean, we planted beans as late and corn as late as the 10th of July, and had a great crop in August. So those plants are you know, not hardy, but they're going to take a week or 10 days to come up, and by then we just might be past frost. That'd be nice.
Yeah, it would be.
That'd be really nice.
Phone lines are open if you have a call or a question for the Garden Guide. 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. You were talking about new shipment of roses that have come in.
Yeah.
And for people that are wanting to plant roses, there's a few tips that we've talked about over the years to help those roses really start to take off.
To get them going. So we got 250 roses came in this week, and another 250 are coming next week. So we've got a whole bunch of roses coming. So the back parking area is going to be covered with plants here very shortly, between all the trees and shrubs and roses that we've got coming in. And if you want to be successful with the roses, they come in 3-gallon containers. And what you want to do is you want to dig your hole 3 times the size of the container. So if the container is 10 inches across, it would be preferable to dig a 30-inch wide hole with the roses, but dig it about the same depth as it is in the pot, because those plants are going to be situated just perfect where the graft is just slightly above the soil line. So try and plant at the same depth, but dig your hole extra wide. And then we've got some planting mix you can mix right in with the soil that you pull out of the hole, whether it's our Miller's box mix, or whether it's a little bit of soil building conditioner, or whether it's a potting soil. We just want to lighten and loosen that soil up a little bit. The box mix actually works really, really well for transplanting roses or trees or shrubs. It's a really great soil mix to work into it. And then, put that rose in there, situate it there, right, put it in the right spot, backfill with that soil. Usually before we backfill with the soil, put a little bit of mycorrhiza on that. Some mic would be excellent to put on the root ball of the rose. Backfill with the soil, kind of build a little ridge of soil so it will hold the moisture in there, and then we water it with kangaroo roots afterwards. And the kangaroo roots will help the root system get reestablished back in that spot. And all the roses we've got right now, there's not too many that are blooming, but they all have buds all over them, so they look really, really great, and they will be in bloom in no time if you get those planted properly. And then after you get them planted, we like to use the kangaroo roots on them about every watering for the first 3 or 4 waterings, and then make sure not to overwater those roses. So even though they're newly planted, even though they are unestablished, we don't need to drown them. And so generally we'll recommend that after 3 or 4 days after the first watering, dig down 3 or 4 inches into the soil. If the soil is still moist down 3 or 4 inches, you don't need to water again. Wait another couple days, check it again, and then once that soil finally dries out down 3 or 4 inches, that's when you want to water, because the soil is going to be moist. It's going to be more moist below that area than it is on the surface. It's going to dry out really quickly on the surface. But if you go down 3 inches and it's still wet, that means it's even wetter down farther.
Yeah, even further
yeah, and so we don't want to just keep adding more water to it, because it's just going to stand in water. So when it dries out down 3 or 4 inches, that's when you want to water those. And the temperatures are cooler right now. I mean, it's been a cool month. April's been really cool. So a lot of the plants that we planted in March haven't had to water much at all. It's once every 10 days, even 2 weeks, because the soil's just retaining the moisture, because it's been kind of cool and a little bit rainy.
Now, would some of that compost tea help those roses?
Oh, absolutely. And the compost tea, once we brew it, it's a little bit more potent than the kangaroo roots, but kangaroo roots is easier to mix up. So, 2 teaspoons per gallon, throw in a 5-gallon bucket, fill it up with water, and then just water a couple of roses with it. You're set. You're ready to go.
Right.
So,
well, let's go back out to the phone lines. We have Brent joining us on the line from Logan. Brent, welcome to the Garden Guide.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I enjoy your show.
Oh, thank you so much.
My question is, in your ad, you had a grass killer. It was a Fertilome product.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if that works on asparagus, or if it'll kill the asparagus too. And how long does it take for that to work?
That's a great question, Brett. So Over the Top from Fertilome will kill just grass. It won't kill anything else. And so it will bother plants that are in the grass family. So it'll affect corn, because corn's in the grass family. There's a bunch of grains that are as well too, but it won't hurt asparagus. And it is safe to use on the asparagus and on raspberries and on strawberries and on roses, which we've just been talking about, and ground cover and bulbs. It won't bother iris. It won't bother daylilies that kind of look like grasses, even though they're not. And so it will kill the grass that's growing up in those plants without damaging your desirable plants. And it does take a couple weeks for it to work, so you got to be patient with the Over the Top. We found that you've got to mix it with a surfactant, like a spreader sticker. So we'll mix those two together and then use them on the grass, and we'll spray once a week for 2 to 3 weeks. And then once the grass really starts to turn yellow, and it usually takes 2 or 3 weeks for it to really start to yellow up. Once it turns yellow, that means the root system is basically gone. And so you can just grab that grass and pull it out, and there's no root system left. It'll actually work its way down through the grass, kill the root system out first. That's why you don't see a whole lot of results on it after the first week, because it's down in killing the root system out. But once that root system is gone, the tops all start to turn yellow, and you just grab it and it comes right out real easy. So easy to get rid of that grass once it has started to die. So be patient, be persistent with it. Spray once a week for 2 to 3 weeks, and it will take out the grass and won't bother your asparagus.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thanks for calling this morning, Brett.
Okay, bye.
All right, we'll see you.
That's really what I should have that would have saved me about 2 hours of work, Mark, the other night, going through trying to pull up all the grasses out of this asparagus patch that I had, trying to keep all of the small tender spears there. And then, right after that, we tackled the raspberries. And one of the things I was going to ask you is, what's a good, we've talked about this before, asparagus and raspberries, you don't really want to get down and agitate the soil much. So what's a good a fertilizer that you can put on the top soil that would soak down in?
There's a couple different things you can use. So Iron Plus is great for a fertilizer for raspberries and for strawberries because it has some nitrogen in there, which is what the berries really like. So they like a higher nitrogen, especially the raspberries. But then there's sulfur and iron in there, and the sulfur helps lower the pH of the soil, and then the iron is readily available there for the raspberries and the strawberries also, and they tend to be kind of iron deficient, so they tend to be a little iron needy, and so if we can supplement that iron and that sulfur along with the fertilizer, that works great. For a big patch, if you want to not just fertilize, but you want to kind of amend the soil as well, too. A new product that came out a couple years ago, the Garden Max, is wonderful for existing flower beds. It's great for existing raspberry patches, areas where you can't really get in there and incorporate some new compost into the soil. And so the Garden Max is like ultra composted compost. And the great thing about it is you only need about 3/4 of an inch, and you just put it on the surface of the soil. And if you can incorporate it slightly into the soil just by raking it, excellent. If you can't, it can just stay right on the surface as well too, and it has all kinds of nutritional value that's in that compost, but it also has some soil conditioners in there that as you water it, it will work its way down into the soil, and it'll actually break up clay. It'll recondition that soil, and it puts all kinds of minerals and micronutrients and beneficial microbes and microorganisms back into the soil as well too. So it'll rejuvenate your soil with very little effort on your part. So we used it a couple years ago in a flower bed that my dad had kind of been working on for years, and it just wasn't performing very well. It just wasn't doing much. And so I was like, Dad, here, let's put that Garden Max down. And he's like, no, that's not going to work. We gotta tear that soil out completely and put some new soil in there and rejuvenate the whole thing. I was like, let's just try the Garden Max. It'll be a lot easier. We'll just put a thin layer, 3/4 of an inch, over the top of the soil, and we'll just kind of rake it in, and then you can just go ahead and plant all your flowers in there, and they'll grow like crazy. And he was very skeptical that was going to work, and we did it, and just kind of raked that 3/4 of an inch right into that flower bed. And then he planted the same flowers that he'd planted in there for the last 3 or 4 years that weren't really doing very much, and they were like double the size of what they were the year before. So the Garden Max would be excellent to just apply just right over the top of the raspberries and the strawberries. Try and put about 3/4 of an inch in there, and if you can, just kind of rake it, slightly incorporate it into the soil, and then start watering it, and it will rejuvenate that soil. It's really a great product.
Garden Max.
Okay. Yeah, the Garden Max. And if you're trying to redo like some raised beds, you can do the Garden Max to like recharge the soil, or you can do Remix. And they both are kind of made very similarly, where it will take that soil that you kind of depleted the year before, and it'll put all the nutrition back into the soil that you're missing. So cool stuff.
We're going to take our break, but you can call in with questions. We've got Bill and Gary holding on the line. We'll get to their calls coming up in just a minute. Plus, we can take more calls during the second half of the show. You're listening to The Garden Guide here on KVNU.
Your KVNU News Update. I'm Will Feelwright. The news this hour brought to you by Logan Dental Associates. The Logan Zoo, or Zootah as it is known, is closed indefinitely as the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food has confirmed the highly contagious avian influenza was detected at the zoo facility. Now, Utah officials announced this on Thursday afternoon, and Friday, the zoo posted a statement on social media saying that the zoo will be closed until further notice, indicating also that all events will be rescheduled to a later date. Zoo officials said they moved many of their birds indoors and away from people and wildlife to protect them from the highly contagious and potentially deadly avian influenza that is spreading from wild bird populations. Now, Utah has one of the largest collections of birds in the region. And a former Idaho lawmaker has been convicted of raping a 19-year-old legislative intern after a dramatic trial in which the young woman had fled the witness stand during testimony saying that she couldn't do this. The verdict was returned Friday. The intern told a state house supervisor that Aaron Von Ellinger had raped her at his apartment after the two had had dinner at a Boise restaurant in March 2021. He said the sex was consensual. Now, at the time, Von Ellinger was a Republican state representative from Lewiston, but he later resigned. Von Ellinger was found guilty of rape. He was found not guilty of sexual penetration with a foreign object. Afterwards, prosecutors lauded the victim for her courage in coming forward. Well, the weather forecast calling for increasing clouds as temperatures the next several days expected to stay right around the low 60s, high 50s during the day with overnight temperatures around the high 30s. Looks like our next chance of storms coming Saturday afternoon into the first of next week. I'm Will Feelright for KVNU News.
From ABC Sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd Ent. Getting a little help from his friends, John Morant wasn't quite on his game, but it didn't matter. The Grizzlies rallied again and beat the Timberwolves in Minneapolis 114-106, taking the first-round series in Game 6.
Bane fires the three. Ring it up. Put three on the board. The man the TV crew calls king of the flyby got another one.
On 92.9 ESPN, Desmond Bane and Dylan Brooks each scored 23 points, and Memphis advanced in the playoffs for the first time in 7 years. Golden State is next, Game 1 in Memphis. New York Mets starter Tyler McGill and four relievers combined on the first no-hitter of the MLB season, tossing 159 pitches.
Swung on and missed strike three. He got him with a slider, put it in the books. 5 Mets pitchers have combined to no-hit the Philadelphia Phillies.
On WCBS, Mets beat the Phillies 3-0 Friday night. This is ABC Sports.
Here's Chad Norton, the lawn doctor, with a tip for your lawn.
As soil temperatures start to warm up, you'll start to see weeds germinate in your lawn, first on the edges and then spread throughout your lawn. One of those weeds will be a dandelion that each have up to 200 seeds per flower and can travel up to 5 miles and live up to 7 years. Call us and we can help control your weed problems this spring.
Call the lawn doctor for fertilizer, weed, and pest control. And if you're looking for a job this summer, join the lawn doctor team. Call 753-LAWN.
NMLS 1817019.
What's a freedom loan? This is Rod with LendRight Mortgage. Here's an example. On the day this ad was recorded, the largest credit union in Utah quoted a 30-year rate of 4.875% with over $8,000 in closing costs. LendRight's Freedom Loan APR is 4.625% and covers 100% of the closing costs for the same $647,000 loan amount. So you get a 0.25% lower rate, a lower monthly payment, and we pay all the closing costs. Save thousands in upfront costs and get a lower rate. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com. Declare freedom from higher rates and fees with the Freedom Loan. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com.
From gardening to landscaping, The Garden Guide with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
And we welcome you back to the show. KVNU News Time is now 8:38. Here with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden. We were talking earlier, Mark, greenhouses are bursting right now.
They are bursting
really.
with plants, yes. We got like multiple trucks in on Thursday and Friday. So the greenhouses are full, flowers everywhere. We've got tomatoes and we've got peppers and we've got eggplant and all the tender plants, the squashes, melons, cucumbers are all in too. It's a little bit early for those, but we've got them anyway. And a lot of perennials came in, roses arrived, and a great selection of trees and shrubs. So our nursery section is just loaded to the hilt.
So for all of us that are going to be doing all sorts of planting today, the first place you want to stop by, Anderson's, grab your compost tea jug.
Yes.
If you've already bought one, come fill it up for free. Or if you don't have one yet,
Stop in and get one. Yep, stop in and get one. And with the way the weather looks for the next week or so, we definitely need to talk about spraying preventatively for fire blight. And then with the blossoms coming off all the stone fruits here in the next week or 10 days, preventatively spraying for shot hole fungus, peach leaf curl, corinium blight, and bacterial canker. That's a great time to try and control some of those diseases before they affect your fruit. And it's definitely time to spray for thrips while the nectarines are in bloom. So I've got to get my nectarines sprayed because I had some thrip damage last year. It makes them kind of cat faces the fruit, so you get those kind of hard cracks on the nectarines. Yeah, and it's a thrip activity right while they're in bloom and right after the blooms come off. And so now's the time to spray those trees for thrips. So I gotta get after those thrips, and because I love nectarines, that's like my favorite fruit. Awesome.
Well, we've got Bill holding on the line, who's been holding with us through the break. And so, Bill, thanks for holding. Welcome to the Garden Guide.
Well, thank you very much. A couple of quick questions, if I may, regarding mature fruit trees. We only got 3 of them, 2 apple and a cherry. All of them are losing their bark. And the first question is it time to replace them?
How old are they? Do you know?
I really don't. We've been in this home for 14 years, so they've been there that long or obviously longer than that.
Yeah. We've got a couple of cherries that have started losing some bark too, but they've been doing that for probably 10 years, and they're still producing. And same thing with the apples. It's just as they mature and get older, and they get attacked by fire blight or possibly some other diseases on the cherries, they'll start to decline a little bit, and you'll see the bark kind of peeling off, and they just don't look great. But in a lot of cases, they will still produce fruit very, very effectively for quite a few years, even after that happens. Wouldn't hurt to start thinking about planting some new trees to replace them with at some point, but I wouldn't count them out yet. They might be very productive for another decade and do a great job. So would not hurt. Yeah, would not hurt to fertilize. I'm going to fertilize my trees tonight before the next storm. And so I'm going to get some really good slow release nitrogen, a lot of other elements in there as well too. So I've got a fertilizer that's a once a year type fertilizer. It's called 365, and it's amazing for fruit trees. And a lot of times we forget to fertilize our fruit trees, and so it's a great time to do that right now. And do that for your trees. Make sure and keep a good pruning regimen going every year. Prune out dead wood, encourage some new growth, and I think you can probably get many years of good production out of those still.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
You're so
second question, if I may.
Yeah.
The cherry tree, if there's a late frost, in a couple of years, it's obviously killed the blossoms and the fruit. Is there anything? I know in Southern California, we lived in Southern California for 10 years, and they have huge fans down there in their orchards that they use to mitigate the frost.
Right.
Is there anything we can do to mitigate that late frost?
You can do the same thing, and frost needs very still air, and so if you stir the air up and get that air moving, then the frost is less likely to land on the blossoms. And it can get below freezing and still not have any frost if you've got good air movement. And a lot of times they'll fire up the fire pits as well too. They'll do some of the 50-gallon drums with a little bit of oil in there and light that to get some heat going as well too. But we had a little bit of frost last night, but I don't think it was cold enough to really do a lot of damage. It might thin some of the trees out a little bit, and there's a lot of blossoms on the trees, and so that's not necessarily a bad thing. And it doesn't look like we've got some really cold temperature in the forecast for the next week. We've got some storms maybe coming through, but no really cold temperature. So I think we're going to be in great shape here in the valley for this year. I think we should be good.
Great.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling, Bill. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
I was visiting a friend one time, and he had Christmas lights on his fruit tree, and I said, really, what are you doing? And he goes, hey, I turn those on if there's a threat of frost.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Generates
I hadn't even thought
a
of
little
that.
bit of heat, but you got to have an incandescent light set.
Yes.
Yeah, the LEDs
Yeah,
don't
the
generate.
LEDs
They
won't
don't
work
generate
like-
enough light, and it's just to generate enough heat. But you get a whole bunch of little light bulbs out there. It generates a lot of heat, and even in the wintertime, you have Christmas lights outside. It'll melt the snow off your trees. I mean, it's warm enough to do that. So it works
idea.
great on the fruit trees also. And we probably should have talked to Bill about fire blight prevention on his apple trees and shot hole fungus prevention on his cherry tree. So we got to remember to hit that still. So, but Gary's on the line.
Yes,
so.
Gary's back from Logan. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem.
I got a above ground garden, and it is full of weeds as we speak. Is it all right if I use Killzall to kill out the weeds and then plant maybe 13 days later and use sprinkle preen down on my plants after I plant them?
Okay. The Killzall biodegrades out of the soil in 4 to 7 days. And so if you spray and all of a sudden your weeds start to turn yellow and are dying down by the end of the week, you could till that in or incorporate it, turn it over, however, and plant right away. So 4 to 7 days after you've sprayed Killzall. If you use Decimate breaks down even faster. You could plant within 24 to 48 hours after you've sprayed. So it would not affect those new plants at all, but it's going to kill all the weeds that you sprayed it on. The preen, you want to give your plants a little bit of time to get established. And if you're planting seeds, there's a few seeds you can plant and still apply the preen, and it won't bother those. So like carrots and beans and peas and radishes, it won't bother those from seed. So that would be fine. But the other plants, you got to wait till they're up and established and growing before you put the preen down, and then that will stop new seeds as they germinate. So that would work great if you gave them enough time to get established before you put the preen down.
Okay, what about fertilizer? What do I use fertilizer for just tomatoes and peppers?
Yeah, for those raised beds, a good tomato and vegetable food would be excellent. Fertilome makes a great one. We sell a lot of Happy Frog, which is an organic variety of the tomato and vegetable food. It's a complete fertilizer for your vegetable garden. The only thing I don't use it on would be corn, because the corn needs a higher nitrogen, so that would be perfect. And the tomato and vegetable food, you can actually put right in the rows where you're planting your seeds, or right in the holes where you're planting your plants, and work that into the soil before you plant, and then it will feed them for about 4 to 6 weeks. So usually 2 applications through the growing season, and you can be very specific and put it right where you want to put your plants and not have to fertilize the weeds and do the whole bed as well too. So great opportunity to feed those plants, especially tomatoes and peppers, get them growing. And then compost tea is amazing on the tomatoes and peppers. I'd recommend it really highly for those plants. It'll make them double in size, and they'll produce more fruit than you've ever had before. So
that means steer manure is not as good as what you just said?
The steer manure is something I'd work into those beds like in the fall. We need some time for that to decompose and to break down. If you put that in now, you're going to have steer manure out there all spring and all summer before it even starts to break down, and it can burn your plants if you're not careful, if you put a little bit too much in there. So better to apply that in the fall to kind of rejuvenate that soil. But for right now, I'd do the tomato and vegetable food, and honestly, the compost tea on the tomatoes is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And that's worm compost, not steer compost. So really good for
Plus
the plants.
also about morning glory.
That can if you bring a lot of steer manure in, sometimes you can bring weed seeds in with it too, because the cattle will eat that. It'll go right through their digestive system. So got to be a little bit careful with that, and it can introduce a lot of weeds into your garden if you're using a lot of steer manure. But with the compost tea, it will feed your plants, but it will also feed the weeds too. So that's why your preen is going to be really important to put in there to prevent weeds from coming up.
So an already established morning glory, is there something I can spray to get rid of that? That kills all?
The Killzall's okay on the morning glory. The Decimate is much better on morning glory. It really kills the morning glory very effectively. And Weed Free Zone does a great job. But if you're doing it in your vegetable garden, the Weed Free Zone, you got to wait 7 to 10 days after you've applied it before you plant. So the Weed Free Zone is going to stick around in the soil a little bit longer than the Killzall would. So, but those would be great options.
So if I already have established flowers and plants that come up every year, and I use that decimate or kills all and keep it on the plant or leaves itself, the other plants will be okay?
Exactly. It will only kill the plants that you spray it on, and it has to go in through the green leafy part of the plant. So even if you spray it on the ground nearby the plants that you don't want to damage, it won't affect those. It has to go on the green leafy part of the plant. So either the decimate or the kills all, you can be very, very selective and just target specific weeds that you want to kill and not bother the plants around it.
Which one of them two are the strongest?
The kills all works better on grasses. The decimate works better on broadleaf weeds, but they both kill everything that you spray it on if it's green and leafy. But it won't go through the bark of a tree. It won't be picked up by the roots of a shrub nearby. It has to go in through that green leafy part. So they do have some strengths, both of those products. One's a little stronger on the grasses, the kills all. The decimate's a little bit better on broadleaf weeds. They both biodegrade very quickly, so you can plant back fast after you've sprayed. So
one last question. The best for the fertilizer on tomatoes is the compost tea?
The compost tea, but I would use it in conjunction with a slower release fertilizer. So like a tomato and vegetable food. So one of my favorites is the Happy Frog tomato and vegetable food. I also love the Natural Guard tomato and vegetable food. That's the one that I use currently right now. And then the tomato and vegetable food from Fertilome. So there's some really great options out there. They come in 4-pound bags. They come in some 20-pound bags as well, too, depending on how large your garden is. And those will last 4 to 6 weeks, where the compost tea really is only going to last about a week to 10 days. And so we use them together to make them more effective that way.
What about Miracle Grow that you spray on?
The Miracle Grow, they have changed the formulation on the Miracle Grow. So it's not one that we recommend right now because it's not the same product that they sold 20 years ago. Yeah, they have reformulated it, and the fertilizer is different. And so the Miracle Grow has always been a really great fertilizer, but that one only lasts a couple days. And so you got to use it a couple times a week to really be effective with the Miracle Grow. So a slower release tomato and vegetable food, you can do it twice a year instead of twice a week.
All right. Well, thank you for your help.
You are so welcome. Thanks for calling this morning. Have a good one.
Bye.
And that frees up the phone line at 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. And let's go back out to the phones. We have Gordon joining us on the line. Gordon, thanks for holding.
Thanks. Good morning, guys. How are we doing?
Doing great, Gordon.
Hey, I had this lovely stand of goat's head out on my front gravel driveway.
So much
fun. The beautiful little yellow flowers. It was lush and green. So I called and had the local extermination guys come and do a ground sterilant, and got lucky. Got it on a day when there was no wind, and they did a great job. But my goat's head's still standing there. Do I need to go hit that with a herbicide?
It will kill those, and it will stop the seeds from germinating. Yeah, and a lot of times those sterilants aren't like a quick reacting. Like you won't see them like a couple days later. They'll still look like they're alive. But what it's going to do is going to kill the root system out first. You could go and spray those with like a little weed-free zone, which will work really, really fast. Or the decimate. Kills-all is going to be slower on those, but those other two products, and they'll kill them out quicker, so they won't produce even more seeds. But the good thing about the sterilant is it's going to stop new seeds, new growth, going to kill root system out, and you won't have anything coming back in there for a year. So we're going to really prevent new things from coming back. So.
Yeah, we've done it before, and it's nice because all the stuff that normally blows off the road and then grows along the edge, it just doesn't take hold because of the sterilant.
Yep, it really helps. Yeah.
All right. Well, I may have to. I was just worried that they were going to form the little goat's heads and drop them, and even though they wouldn't grow, that grandkids would be running across them and stepping on them.
And that is a possibility because with the dumb puncture vine, as soon as they flower, you can spray it with a herbicide, and it'll kill the plant, and it will still set seeds, with spines on them, and so then you're transporting those all over the place. It's like every time I walk through a section of my garden that has them in there, they're all over my shoes, and I know I'm like leaving them in other parts of the yard as well too. It's like, so problematic. So
even worse when your daughter drives her bicycle over it.
Yeah,
that's
horrible
too.
for bicycle tires.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, we may do a double dosage on it, and you can kind of tell that they're not feeling good. They're looking a little more sickly. But I thought, oh, I'm afraid that all those little flowers are going to drop a nice sharp goat's head, and we're going to find them all summer.
Yep. So you need something quick. So the weed-free zone would be great. Even some of the organic herbicides, like pulverize, would be great because it's more of a top kill, and so you spray that on, and it's going to just like burn the top off and hopefully prevent that from setting seeds. It's not going to go down and kill the root system out as effectively as some of the other ones, but you've already put the sterilant on. So
the sterilant's doing the job on that.
Yeah, so a top kill in this situation might be even more advantageous because it's going to burn the tops off, and hopefully it won't set any seeds.
Okay, and I've got some decimate, but I didn't know if they had big enough leaves to really absorb that well.
Yep. I sprayed some on Tuesday with the decimate, and they're dead already. So.
Oh. Well, if the wind's not blowing, that sounds like a good project.
Good way to go. Yep. Little surfactant in there never hurts. So I use some Nano Boost in with mine, and man, it just has wiped those out. So.
That was what I was just gonna ask if this is a good time to try out my Nano Boost. So.
Yes, wonderful time for the Nano Boost. So.
Okay, all right, sounds like a good thing for this afternoon. So.
Thanks for calling, Gordon.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
Have a great week.
See ya.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Got about 4 minutes left. Right. Time we could take a quick call, 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. You mentioned really this weekend for those with fruit trees, fire blight.
Yes, fire blight.
Something that I think everybody probably wants to make sure they tackle.
So the bacteria gets spread around by the bees and by the wind, and it lands on the stamens of the blossoms, and it will stay there. It's when it gets into the cup of the blossom that it's going to infect your tree, and that happens when we get heavy winds and we get rain. And it pushes that bacteria into the cup of the flower, and then all of a sudden it's into the tree. And so when it rains while the trees are in bloom is when they're most susceptible. So at that point, you want to spray for fire blight prevention, whether it's streptomycin sulfate or copper soap or even garden phos, right before it rains, if possible, or at least right after it rains. We're going to try and control that bacteria before it really starts to spread. Preventatively, the garden phos is great because we can treat the trunk with that product. It'll absorb it in through the bark, right into the circulatory system of the tree. It'll spread it all the way through the tree and protect the tree for about 3 months if you do that bark treatment. If you do the spray only lasts for probably a couple weeks, maybe a month if you get it on the leaves as well too. But while they're in bloom is when those trees are most susceptible to fire blight, and so that's when we want to spray. Definitely before we have a rainstorm, definitely while they're in bloom at least once, maybe twice. And if we get heavy storms coming through, you're going to probably spray 3 or 4 times while those trees are in bloom. And then for stone fruits, for all those diseases that we really have problems with throughout the summer, we want to spray right after the blossoms drop off. So copper soap is excellent. You can use the copper soap. The Complete Disease Control from Monterey is excellent. F-Stop. We can spray right after the blossoms are all off the trees and prevent shot hole fungus or Corinium blight. Bacterial canker, we can prevent peach leaf curl, and I'll usually recommend one spray right after the blossoms come off, and if it stays cool and wet, spray again 2 weeks after that, and that will really get you a good clean start for the season and prevent that disease from spreading all over the place. So critical times here in the next 2 weeks to be doing some spraying.
Come in, grab the spray, grab a compost tea jug, start filling it up through the summer. And coming up next week, we'll have, of course, Mother's Day.
Yep, Mother's Day is next weekend, so a lot of things happening at Anderson Seed and Garden. We'll have some great sales. We've got gorgeous hanging baskets in right now, beautiful hanging baskets. You may want to grab them now for Mother's Day. Because they disappear really fast, and we'll restock, but sometimes by Saturday afternoon, there's nothing left, and it's too late to restock at that point. So don't wait. If you want to get some gorgeous hanging baskets, don't wait till next weekend. Get them now. now, and then we'll restock, and we'll have some for next weekend as well too. But we usually stock the greenhouses almost every other day before Mother's Day to keep the plants rolling in and looking really good. So greenhouses are full. Hanging baskets, flowers, vegetables, everything looks amazing in there. Don't forget about our new tomato video, and the tomato, it's called our magic formula to make your tomatoes grow like crazy. It's on YouTube. Just search on YouTube Anderson's tomato magic formula and watch that video. It'll walk you right through the whole process of how to make your tomatoes look amazing. And we did it last fall when the tomatoes were huge, and you can see what they look like and how many fruit were coming off of them. And it's a great video to complement our hanging basket video that only has like 2.6 million views on it, I think now. So
crazy. Well, I remember when we went in, we're there for Christmas last year. We had the Christmas tomato plant.
Yeah, we had
huge.
Yeah, we had the tomatoes right there with Santa. We did basically the same thing on those in 20-inch pots. Yeah. And they did great. Really so good. Santa was growing his tomatoes last winter. So
all right. Well, we thank everybody for joining us for the show. The KVNU Garden Guide will be back again next week.
Know about it. Talk about it.
This nation belongs to all of us.
News Talk KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.